Lovely stuff. Right, in which case we can get into it. You came to me and you said that the most important point to make today was one of discipline. So I think a good place for us to start is, how did you start your gym journey?
Well, I was very skinny, right, when I was about 17. And this is when I started my gym journey. Very, very skinny in the legs, not much muscle to me, not much fat to me, literally just skin and bone, right? And I'd just come out of a pretty poor relationship, as I'm sure we're both aware. Pretty poor relationship, but I sort of used the negative emotions coming out of that relationship to sort of drive me in the gym. And it's important to remember that it doesn't really matter how long you go to the gym for, just as long as you go, because even if it's for the first time, it's just like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. You still went, you still have a increase in dopamine levels, so you'll still feel a lot more productive, a lot more energetic when coming out of the gym. You'll feel a lot more positive about yourself. And after going for the first time for about 15 minutes, you'll find that as time goes on, you'll go more times just over a longer period of time. Because the worst thing you can do is to just throw yourself straight into it 45 minutes just flat out first time, because you're not going to be really sure on what you're doing in the gym if you've never been before, if you've never watched videos on it. You're going to be quite confused. You're going to be a little bit worried, a little bit nervous about yourself, about whether people are going to be looking at you and judging you for how you look, which people don't do that, but not knowing what you're doing, just chucking yourself in the deep end straight away, you're playing a bit of a dangerous game, I guess you could say.
I think I did this when I first started the gym. You do assume that you've got to go as you would be and go for it.
Yeah.
And you don't allow yourself, like anything, that time to just, don't worry about the fizz. I can see you desperately trying.
Opening it slowly.
People try to sort of throw themselves at it as though they'd been doing it for years, forgetting, like anything, when you start something, you're not good at it. And it's a really good point that you make there of the fact that you'll increase your energy by exerting energy. Energy breeds energy.
Yeah.
I want to shelf that and make a point of, because I think it's important to sort of put the background in to then explain why you know what you're talking about on this. Take me back to when you were 17, you've just come out of this relationship, you've decided that the villain arc is the way to go. What's the complexion of your mind when you first step into the gym? First time that you start going.
The first time when I started going, I didn't go by myself. I went with a very good friend of ours by the name of Manav Vyas.
Yeah.
Because he used to be a member at David Lloyd at the time as well. But I remember when I first stepped in, I sort of just looked around. Genuinely, I just sort of had to stand there, just look around. I sort of was just thinking to myself, what the hell am I going to do? Because I had no knowledge on like exercises other than what the fixed weight resistance machines would tell you. But when it came to free weights, dumbbells and things like that, I had absolutely no idea what I was going to do because my knowledge was completely fresh. I had no idea about what exercises targeted what muscles, and I was sort of just a little bit lost. But that's why I went with Manav, to sort of decrease that sort of factor of me just sort of walking around aimlessly. And it was definitely nerve-wracking because I remember I was sort of like looking around, checking my surroundings a lot because I wasn't sure whether people were looking at me or whether people were thinking I was just a bit strange looking, doing something wrong. And that's always a massive worry. Yeah. Even now, like when I try new exercises now, I'm always absolutely terrified that I'm doing it wrong. But it's always important to remember that even if you do go, no matter how stupid you may look, at the end of the day, you're still doing something right for yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as well, that's something that I've wrangled with plenty, is you think that you have to be good to start something, but in order to be good, you have to start something.
Yeah.
It's sort of an inverse here of, in order to be able to do the reps properly and have the appropriate technique, you need to get it wrong. And in getting it wrong, you'll look stupid, and that's what you want to avoid. But it doesn't matter. I would argue, be interested to see actually what your opinion on this is. Doing it wrong is better than not doing it at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, I know there's injuries and things that can incur if you do it wrong too long, but starting it, you're going to get it wrong. You're going to mess it up.
Yeah, 100%. I do definitely agree with that. Because there are still, like I said, there are still some times now when I start new exercises, and I, even though I've done research on the exercise and I've watched videos on how to do it properly, I still know I'm doing something wrong because I'm not feeling it in the targeted muscle.
Yeah.
But that's absolutely fine. Like, it's normal. Like, you see people making mistakes in anything, any profession or whatever. Like, you see mistakes always getting made, and it's completely normal, because without mistakes, how are we gonna learn?
Exactly. It highlights what you're not good at yet.
Yeah, and then you can just say to yourself, all right, next time I come and next time I'm training this in the gym, I'll just remember to do that. Which is why, as well, when you're starting off, to help with the discipline of going to the gym more, there are so many different ways you can go around it to get yourself in the gym more. You can go with someone. You can pay for a personal trainer. Granted, some personal trainers are expensive, but it's a luxury, so it's going to cost money. It's going to cost quite a bit of money. Or just doing classes, because you're not with people that you know, and it might be a little bit uncomfortable at first, but I think with classes, after maybe like the second time of going, that's when you sort of really settle in. You understand a bit more. You understand there's more of a community in the gym, not more of like a conflict.
It's not a free-for-all.
Yeah, it's not a free-for-all. It's more of just like, we're all here together for the same reason. We just want to stay healthy. We want to stay fit. And that will really drive you to go more. And classes don't last ages. But then that falls back to the point of, it doesn't matter how long you go for, you've still been.
Yeah.
So it's going to make you want to go again for the next time. And then maybe after a class, you'll do some of your own stuff afterwards, so you're there for longer. And then eventually you'll move away from the classes because you know what you're doing. So you'll end up doing your own sessions, and then you'll stay longer and longer and longer, and then you'll go more and more times.
I think that's important, though, what you've just said there, though, that you don't have to start going a lot quickly, because you'll just scare yourself out of it.
Yeah.
I noticed when I first started martial arts, if I was to go in there for 2 hours, that would have really hit me, because I would just be, it's too long to be uncomfortable. And I think you've got to be aware of how much discomfort you can take with things like, particularly something like the gym, because think about it, you're going into the place where there is nowhere besides maybe a fight gym that you're going to be more aware of the fact that you haven't got as much muscle as you would like, as in a place where everyone is built, or not everyone, but there's plenty of people in there that are very muscular. Yeah. It's going to make you feel weaker, more diminutive than you would if you were just walking around, because it's highlighting the issue, because you're there. So it's important to know that there's a certain amount of discomfort you should expose yourself to, but not too much. Because if you do too much, you won't go again. And there's I think that's a point that people fall short on, is if you do it too much too soon, you won't go the next time. And it's better if you do 10 minutes a day, just simple maths. If you do 10 minutes a day for 7 days, you do 70 minutes. If you go once a week for an hour, you do 60.
Yeah. And recommended times for exercise, and this could be any form of exercise, whether it's gym, lifting weights, running, walking, whatever, any intensity. If it's just moderate intensity, you're recommended to do around, I think it's 90 minutes a day, roughly, of moderate intensity exercise. What
defines moderate intensity?
So walking, going on a jog, doing some light weights, just picture it as sort of like just a prolonged warm-up, I guess you could say.
And do you have to do that all in one go, or could I do a 45-minute walk in the morning?
Just throughout the day.
Right.
Just throughout the day. Doesn't have to all be in one go, but you can use that to ease yourself into the gym, for example, and ease yourself into going to the gym more. So you could start off like you said, start off your day with just a short walk, just to get yourself into the mindset of exercise, to make you feel like you've accomplished something that day. And then later on in that day, you can go to the gym, do like another 15 minutes, because if you're new, 15 minutes is really all you'll need, because your muscles won't be used to that much exercise. So you don't want to overload your muscles too much. And then you can finish off your day again with another walk. Maybe go see a sunset or something,
I know someone who particularly enjoys doing that.
No, but just another walk to finish it off. It could even be to and from the gym. You can walk to and from the gym if it's local. That will take a good half an hour out of your day.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And it makes you feel like you've accomplished something. And then you'll do it again and again and again. And then you'll start moving into more the higher intensity exercises, where you'll maybe start running to the gym or running to and from the gym. You'll do a bit more intensity with the weights at the gym. So you'll up the weight a little bit more, maybe make the session longer, more resistance. You'll start using a few more complex sort of exercises to sort of help gain the tear in the muscles, and then run back home from the gym. Then that's your exercise done for that day.
And you put it in a way that sounds very simple, and I have to say, it kind of is that simple.
Yeah.
In many respects, I've noticed with a lot of things, you start something, you feel terribly uncomfortable, you feel as though, oh God, I'm never going to be able to do this, and feel fluid. And then you sort of one day, after you've done it for a while, you're sort of just doing it. Yeah. You have become the person that can do it comfortably. I think people overcomplicate how long it actually takes, or overestimate rather, how long it takes to actually become someone who is perfectly comfortable in a gym, or at least capable in a gym.
Yeah.
It's a difficult question when it comes to comfort, because there's that striving that is constantly prevalent. But in terms of being able to, you won't have anywhere near as much anxiety when it comes to actually doing exercises in the gym now. And how long have you been going to the gym now? 3 years?
Yeah, so when I started, I was just a member, and that was only, I think, June 2021 till about April 2022, and then membership was cancelled, and then I didn't actually start going until November of 2022, so about, we'll say, we're getting towards 3 years this year. So 3 years, I've tried to stay pretty consistent. It's been a rocky journey, we'll put it that way. A lot of conflict with myself about the days whether I have gone or haven't gone, because I've had work in between that, and then it falls back to the discipline of going after work. It's a very difficult process.
What keeps you disciplined on that though? Because you do that.
I would say just, I wouldn't say bullying myself into it, but more just like, if you don't go, you're going to miss out on even just the slightest move, like step forward when it comes to getting the body that I want. Yeah. And I can't bear not see myself in the body that I want. Yeah. I want it so badly, and granted it's taking so long, and I hate it on how long it's taking, but I know that results don't come straight away.
No.
So I need to remember to just take my time with it, take it slow, embrace the sessions that I feel good afterwards, like my muscles ache, and also embrace the sessions that don't go as well. So the sessions where you don't really feel as much in your muscles as I sort of found yesterday.
How do you rationalise those sessions in your head when you feel like you haven't got what you wanted out of it? What do you take from that as the positive?
I just take that I went.
Yeah.
I still went, and it's important to remember, even though sometimes you won't feel it in your muscles, just because you don't feel it doesn't mean you haven't torn your muscle at all. It just means that maybe next time you could go a little bit heavier, or you could up the reps and sets a little bit more. Because no matter what, like stretching the muscle or contracting the muscle to an extreme extent, it's going to tear the muscle either way. Just not as much to the point where you will feel achy the next couple of days, or in a bit of pain, or feel a bit stiff. Like, it still means you have made some form of progress. It's just the smallest bit of progress forwards, but any progress is still progress.
Yeah, absolutely. I think steps forward are steps forward. You know, you can quote that. No, the point is, I notice it with myself when it comes to, on this sort of the academic side of discipline. I have a quota that I would like to meet every day. If I don't meet that, I find it very difficult to sort of rationalise in my head, similar to your sessions where they haven't gone so well. Oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to go. But if you can reframe that and look and go, and this is where I'd like us to sort of segue into what it actually means to be disciplined. If you can look at it and you can go, well, yeah, maybe I didn't do as much as I would have liked to do today, but I've still done more than if I did nothing.
Yeah.
I think it's important to sort of ingrain. I think it's ingraining that mindset that no matter what, I'm going to do it. And even if that means that rather than doing an hour, I do 10 minutes, or rather than doing 2 hours of this, I do 20 minutes of it. I think if you can flip your mind when it comes to discipline, not to be... I think people assume that discipline means you get it right all the time, and you always do it as best as you can, and that's what discipline is. I would argue that discipline is when no matter what happens, you at least try.
Yeah, it is. In my opinion, definitely. I do agree with that, 100%. It's definitely... It's almost like trial and error, just a repetitive state of trial and error with new things, different things, or the same thing, just to be able to get better at it, so that then next time you can fail at something different, so then you can perfect that, and then it just goes on, because you're still keeping at it, and that's where the discipline comes from. The discipline comes from you continuously going back at what you failed last time and perfecting it for the next time.
Yeah. And I think that speaks of the compounding effect, which is very, very strong. The gym, you will know this from the gym, that you could go for 45 minutes, but if you do that 4 times a week, that it's not going to take long before you're really starting to see something grow there.
Yeah.
And I think when you actually look at it on the scale of how much time you have over a week, if you're putting, 3 hours of that altogether into going to the gym, that's not a lot of time in terms of how much time you have. The average person finds 28 hours a week to watch TV. So there's plenty of time in your day. And I think people don't realise actually how really low the threshold is for being able to achieve very great things. I think discipline is sort of put at arm's length for a lot of people, where they feel as though you have to be able to run marathons or sit exams for 6 hours in order to call yourself someone disciplined. I think we should reframe what it actually means to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pose the question to you. What does it mean to be disciplined?
Good question. I would say to be disciplined, you need to recognise your faults on what you have on the fault. You need to recognise the faults you have made on something new you've just started, or something you're trying to learn, and in doing those faults, you need to get comfortable with those faults to then go back. Review those faults, see where you went wrong, and then go back and try it again. And discipline is, in my opinion, the state in which you do something consistently to a point until you perfect it or understand it. Yeah, I'll leave it at that.
How do you think what do you think the difference is between discipline and perfectionism?
Perfectionism is when you're... That's a great question, actually. Oh, God, you put me on the spot with this one.
On the spot he goes.
Perfectionism is... I'll start with discipline, actually.
Go on.
So the difference is, with discipline, you you're not good at it at first. You're not good at something at first. You still need to learn some sort of ways around things and understand things better. Whereas perfectionism, I feel like it's something where you just have a natural talent towards it.
Do you though? Do you really think that? Think about it. I would say that I think perfectionism and discipline are very often confused and not for good purpose. I think discipline is the good version of perfectionism. I think discipline is what you want. Perfectionism is something to, in many respects, avoid. I noticed that in myself as someone who is... I think perfectionism is something that in moderation is very good, but by its very nature is very difficult to moderate. Because as someone who is a perfectionist, you want it to be done well. You want to do it as best as you can. You want to be disciplined to do it as best as you can. But I think where discipline and perfectionism sort of fall away from each other is discipline, in many respects, embraces the art of failure, and perfectionism resents it.
Yes, yeah, I'm with you now.
And the point I would like to make on that when it comes to discipline is I think people assume that in being disciplined, you can't fail. When, as you said at the start of this, you cannot win without failure. Failure is at the centerpiece of anything that's worth doing. If you can't fail, you can't win. I think it's absolutely important that people realise, I notice this in myself all the time, that in wanting to be disciplined, I make mistakes. And in making those mistakes, I assume that I'm not disciplined. But then the next day, or even the next action after what I deem to be an action I wouldn't have wanted to do, I will then course correct and get back to where I should be. But I still won't consider myself disciplined for doing that. Now, that's wrong. Now, as with everything, if we could take our own advice, we would all be geniuses. But I certainly know that this is the case. I think we assume, particularly on the end of failure when it comes to discipline, that if you do something wrong, say for instance you don't do the studying or you don't go to the gym, that you sort of lost the title or the honour of being someone who is disciplined. I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I think though discipline is a moving target, and you can't be disciplined last year and call yourself disciplined this year. You have to, it's
got to be continuous.
It's replenishing it all the time. You've constantly got to renew that. I would also argue that it's not something that if you're disciplined all the time, or basically all the time, 90% of the time, and you do one thing that you think, gosh, I should have gone to the gym today, or whatever it is, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden you've lost your title of being someone who's disciplined.
Yeah.
And I think people think it does.
Yeah.
I definitely think it does. And it's not healthy.
No.
I think there's a needed reframe when it comes to how strong discipline actually is once you cultivate it. I think people assume that it's this ever elusive goal that you can't make any mistakes, otherwise you will no longer disciplined.
Yeah.
I think if you reframe it and look and go, do I spend most of my time doing things that are worth doing? Yes. Do I sometimes make mistakes? Yes. Well, what's the ratio here? Am I doing more good than bad? Yes. Right, well then you're disciplined.
Yeah.
You're doing the right things. I would like to sort of home in and really make a point though of how to sort of... I think a good place to start is, how did you sort of ingrain going to the gym for you? How did you become disciplined on going to the gym?
I would say I was sort of just sick and tired of looking skinny. I set myself some targets, so nothing like weight targets or anything, because I know a lot of people set weight targets to stay disciplined, so they'll set themselves to be this weight by then set themselves up a program or pay for a PT to set them up a program which will help them reach their goal. But for me, I just wanted to gain mass, and I just didn't want to look skinny anymore. I wanted to fill out some of the gym shirts that I had previously had. I wanted to eventually then start buying more clothes in larger sizes, and then set myself the next target of filling that shirt out to sort of really help me drive and just continue going. And it worked. It definitely made me work harder in the gym. It made me go more consistently. It was obviously quite easy to go consistently when it's in my place of work.
Yeah.
Because I could, back when I started working there, at, as we call it, Costa del David.
Costa del David.
As I started working there, because I was working so much, I didn't really have the time to go like after work or any time during the weekend or something, because I was working so much. So I had to go before all of my shifts. So that also sort of helped me drive a little bit, because I thought, right, I've got no other time to go, so I really need to make sure I'm up in the gym before work, because if not, then I'm missing, like I said earlier, I'm missing out on an opportunity to push forward to filling out this shirt, to make myself look bigger, to make myself look stronger, to make myself move away from the time when I was skinny. And yeah, ever since then, I've just carried on doing it. I've just sort of, it's like with the shirt that I'm wearing today, like it's oversized, and my aim is to sort of fill it out. Like fill out the sleeves, make myself feel comfortable in it. And I'm slowly getting there. Slowly, but I'm still getting there.
You absolutely are. You absolutely are. I think you've touched on a really good point there of the value of dangling that carrot, of showing yourself what you can have. And I think as well, you did it in a really useful way of, it was sort of an just out of reach. Like you're nearly there. Because I mean, if you had a size small shirt and you went, right, I want to fit this XXL, well, it's so far away.
Yeah,
it's
it's
ridiculous.
way too far
but if
away.
you're a medium and you're going, well, I'd like to be in a large, that is attainable, and you can get there because you're already you're on the cusp. And I think it's important if you can sort of put yourself. I think when people set goals, the place they go wrong is they set them too far away.
Yeah, 100%.
I think you think, for instance, when I was nearly 14 stone, of course, what I wanted to be was the sort of weight that I'm at now. But dropping 3 stone is not a simple thing to do. It takes time. Yeah. I benefited when I reframed and looked and thought, right, let me drop 2 pounds this week, and let me drop 6 pounds over the month. And I think micro managing your goals on that is really useful. And I would say from a perspective of academia, because I think discipline does kind of encompass all of what it means to improve, not just on the physical scale. I think when it comes to book reading or writing or studying or anything like that, I think this is quite a difficult thing for people to actually set goals for, because it's a bit more arbitrary. When with a body, you can look and you can go, right, I'm now 12% body fat, I want to be 10% body fat. And it's like money. Money is so useful for people in terms of gauging their value, because you can literally look at it. You can go, right, I want to be a millionaire, and there's an amount of money there that you can go, right, now I'm a millionaire.
Yeah.
How do you observe whether you've become a more empathetic person? You know, it's not the same. You can't really look at it. And I think on the point of setting goals for academia, something that has worked very well for me is to ask questions of yourself. Is to look at, say, for instance, you want to know what has happened recently in the JFK files. Well, go and look. I think that's an important thing when it comes to I just wanted to make that point, that setting goals is very simple if you learn to ask yourself questions. Something that was percolating in my mind as you were speaking there on the oversized shirt. How valuable do you think the toxic fuel of sort of inner or external negativity is when it comes to improving?
It's just like on the term of like bullying yourself into doing it.
Not bully. Well, I mean, in some respects, yeah. But I mean, you've spoken now of your initial desire to start the gym stemmed from a sort of feeling of rejection or negativity, and you are sort of harbouring that chip on your shoulder of, if this shirt is still too big, I've got work to do. And you did sort of say there that it's like working to become comfortable rather than being comfortable.
Yeah.
How much value do you think there is in sort of embracing the negative side of that?
I'd say it depends from person to person, depend on how they deal with something like that mentally, I would say, because in doing that, I'm not saying I'm like a stone-minded mental
Stoic.
god, yeah. Some people just prefer to take things lightly on themselves because they feel as though they will know they'll get it in after a longer period of time, but they just don't really see the need to sort of go in full heavy force, all guns blazing. Whereas someone else could view it and think, oh yeah, like I really need to make this, like I really need to fill this shirt out, like, and if I don't buy so and so, then not like a failure, but
Kind of.
Yeah. But I haven't like achieved the goal that I wanted to achieve, and then I'll want to just sort of do it more, or they'll want to feel they'll feel disappointed in themselves, which some could argue might increase their discipline to go more, because they'll think, I can't fuck up like that again.
Yeah,
so
I
they'll
don't want to feel that way.
Yes, they'll give themselves a kick up the arse. So then they'll go even more consistently, with just a higher concentration rate, I'd say. But yeah, I would definitely say there's definitely a lot of value in it, especially when you're aiming towards a goal that you know will make you feel happy by the end of it, because you'll feel a lot of relief by the time when you reach that goal. But as I say, it will vary from person to person and how desperately they actually want to achieve their goals. Because I find that I feel as though with someone that may want to achieve that goal, for example, of filling out a shirt, but isn't really all that bothered at the same time, they'll probably just not sort of like doss about, but they won't take it as seriously as someone would who is very sort of demanding of themselves, who will set high expectations for themselves each time they go to the gym.
So how has it positively worked for you?
It positively worked for me because I've learned a lot about myself, about how I work mentally, about how I sort of go around these barriers that I need to overcome to be able to reach the stage that I'm at now, or reach the stage that I will be at in the future. I've learned a lot more about other people and their journeys. It's helped me. It's helped me sort of just move forwards without any form of way of setting back, I guess you could say. So it's really driven me to push forwards. Right. Really driven me. It's given me that drive of energy to go to the gym, to stay active, stay in the gym, stay lifting weights, stay doing all forms of exercise. And I found it almost rather peaceful at points, because I know that I've accomplished something.
Order out of chaos.
Yeah, pretty much.
How has it negatively affected you to have that frame?
There have definitely been some days, whether I'm ill or actually just incapable to go to the gym. It's definitely made me feel. Some days it does make you feel really shit about yourself, because you're like, shit, I didn't go to the gym today when I should have gone, because I was doing this, or I was doing that, or I was seeing this person, or I was doing something else. And then you sort of do beat yourself up a little bit. It doesn't happen every time, but it happens occasionally on days where it might be your favourite day in the gym. But then it's important to remember that you can just do that the next day and then just sort of move everything back a day. And it's also important to remember there's nothing wrong with rest days at all, whether it's planned or not. It's important to have more rest than you actually feel like you need, because rest is what builds the muscle back up. It gives the muscle time to repair and regrow from the protein that you take in. So yeah, it does sometimes really beat you up, but it's completely normal.
Is it though?
Well, for someone that that really wants their goal, yes.
My point is, it's normal for someone that wants their goal, but I would argue on this point, I think there's a tremendous amount of value in feeling insufficient. I think in feeling insufficient, I mean, let's have it right. Anyone who chooses to improve at anything is essentially saying, in their current state, they are not enough.
Yeah.
That's what you're doing. Now, that's totally fine, and you should do that as well, because you should strive towards things. Absolutely. Well, I will always advocate that.
Yeah.
But I think where we can go wrong with this is it's never enough. You never get to the point where you're happy with what it is that you've done. And I think that's an important point for people to realise is, I think it sort of calls back, Dacre and I were talking about this. Are you in control of your routine, or is your routine in control of you? You know, because if you can't consider yourself a worthy person, or you don't think that you're allowed to be happy today because you didn't go to the gym, is that really the way that we should be living? Is it that important that because you didn't do one arbitrary amount of work today, or one arbitrary task, I didn't go to the gym, or I didn't do my exercise, or I didn't do my study, does that mean that today you shouldn't allow yourself to be happy? I would argue vehemently, no. I don't think that I think Chris Williamson has a really, really good point on this, that it's almost like when you're working towards things, you start the day off in a sort of debt to yourself, where it's like, in order to get to the baseline of being able to go, right, I'm fulfilled, I'm allowed to be happy, I've done my amount of work, you can't get there until you've gone to the gym. It's like you start on the back foot when you wake up. And I feel this. It's like, I would really struggle on a day if you said to me, right, you're just going to go out, you're not doing any of the stuff, you're just going to go out and you're going to have your day. There would have to be a level of preparation in terms of managing how that's going to make me feel, because I would feel like, well, no, I can't enjoy that until I've done the other thing. I think when it comes to this negative energy, it's sort of like a finite resource that is valuable to use. It's like a fuel that burns from the inside. It gets you where you want to go, and I totally think that using negative energy as fuel is really good. I think if you've got it, use it. But there comes a point when it starts to work inwardly, and it's like, now I can't allow myself to go out and enjoy my day without having done this amount of work, because I'm not allowed to enjoy things until I've done the work. I think that's wrong, and I think it's such a hard point to sort of balance, because you want to improve, and you should want to improve, and in wanting to improve, you need to do work. But you shouldn't put happiness on the other side of anything, because I think, essentially, put it this way, why do you go to the gym? Because you want to feel good. You want to, and sort of at the root of that is you want to be happy. We sort of, in the quest for getting something that will make us happy, we don't allow ourselves to currently be happy. It's like, I will only be happy once I've got that thing. You sort of don't allow yourself to be happy now in order to get something that will make you happy. And it's like, well, why can't we can't just allow ourselves to be content. We refuse to do it when we're fueling ourselves with negative energy.
It is definitely okay to have negative energy, 100%. Because I've seen people in the gym that come in looking hoods up, depressed as fuck.
Yeah.
Sat on a machine, literally like just staring at the floor.
Oh, they're there. Yes, they are there.
Yeah, they still go. no matter what the reason might be. They might have missed a session yesterday, so they're sort of beating themselves up for it the next day, even though they've still gone. And negative energy, I would say, especially anger, is definitely one of the main drivers for people in the gym. 100%, because there is no better feeling than going to the gym in a bad mood, putting your headphones on, blasting music, to then just either go on the punching bag and just beat the shit out of the bag.
Slay some fucking demons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there is, it is the best feeling ever.
It is a good feeling.
Or it is the same with getting a new PR, but literally just because you're angry.
Yeah.
Like, it's happened to me before. It's great. It really unleashes something completely different in you. So it definitely is okay to have negative energy, but it's also important to remember that this doesn't mean that you should always go to the gym when you feel shit. No, it's perfectly fine to go to the gym on a good day, when you're having a good day as well, because you'll talk to more people, you'll meet new people.
And you shouldn't it's the same sort of idea. You shouldn't you shouldn't say that you can only do the work that needs to be done when you feel shit, because then you're only going to do the work that makes you feel good when you feel shit. Mm-hmm. So then you're going to do less work, because in doing it you'll feel good, so then you won't do it anymore.
Yeah.
I think anger is something that we sort of, particularly now, assume we're not allowed to utilise. It's something that we're sort of told to suppress. I totally disagree.
Yeah.
I absolutely disagree. I think, as you say there, I mean, the last year of my life has essentially been proving a point. And it has been. I can't lie that a lot of my energy has been devoted, to be honest, longer than that, quite a long time now, quite a few years now, has been proving a point. And that has worked for me. I have got a lot out of that. I think if you get a chip on your shoulder, then lean into it, because it is useful. There's a quote that I really love on the point of revenge that I'm going to reserve for now. But I think revenge, in the form of, if you're rejected by someone, or you hurt, or you don't like yourself because you're overweight, or whatever it is, revenge is very, very, very potent, and it will take you far. But as the quote goes, revenge is the raging fire that consumes the arsonist, meaning at some point you've got to let it go. You can't constantly have the chip on your shoulder. If you're always fueled by anger, you won't be able to be happy. And back to the point we've made, why are you going to the gym? Why are you doing these things? The only reason that we do anything that is for the purpose of improvement is to be happy.
Yep. So
you need to let yourself be happy. And you need to at some point go, right, I can do this thing without feeling as though I have to fuel myself with negative energy. You need to learn to use positive energy.
Oh yeah.
But doesn't mean there isn't a place for the aggressive, angry, pissed off version that is trying to make a point, because there is. Yeah, and if you've got it, use it.
100%, because if you're consistently using revenge, and I actually hate it when people are consistently using the same reason as to why they're going. It sounds ridiculous of me to say, but it does bug me, because that one goal isn't going to be your goal for the next 10 years.
No, that's right.
Goals are going to change. Like, you can't have revenge on an ex that cheated on you, for example. Like, you can't have revenge on an ex that cheated on you 10 years ago. Because then at that point, you're just sort of getting into a bit of pettiness, in my opinion.
Who are you living for?
Exactly. Like, eventually that goal has got to change.
Yeah. Like,
you can't live off of one bad experience, because then that's going to start affecting you mentally, in or outside of the gym. The drive of it is just going to eventually become less and less. It's going to cause you to not really have as much motivation in the gym, because eventually you'll realise yourself, it was 10 years ago, why am I still dwelling over it? like, it's happened. Like, just sort of seemed a bit of a fucking idiot.
Yeah.
Like,
what am I doing?
Yeah, like, it's got to change to something else. Obviously, like, if the goal isn't, like, to get revenge, for example, then, yeah, the goal will probably remain the same for quite a while. Longer than a revenge sort of feeling. But goals will always be changing. Goals will always be morphing and moving on into different areas, different sections. So, for example, it could start off with... So, if you're doing rehab, for example, the first goal... Say if you just snapped your Achilles. The first goal is obviously recovery. So, the first goal is to obviously, well, not snap it again when you've got the boot on. Recovery, that's that goal done. Then it's going to change. It's going to move on into the next goal, which will be sort of a bit more sort of flexibility, you know, making sure you're able to sort of move it about without any pain, without any, like, stress that it is going to go again. Once you've done that goal, it changes again, and it will then move on to strength and conditioning. You've got to make sure you, especially when you have an injury like that, it's extremely important to make sure that you do some strength and conditioning at the end, starting off with it very light. With that, starting off with the strength and conditioning lightly is goal number one. Then the goal will change again, and it will move on to putting up the weight a little bit more, making the exercises a bit harder on the tendon and on the muscles. Then the goal will change again. Constantly, we are in a constant moving motion of goal changing, which is why so if you've got a personal trainer, for example, so what I had to do for my course, I had to set 12 short-term goals, 3 medium-term goals, and 1 long-term goal. And what it does is it keeps you intertwined with the gym. It keeps you like really sort of eyes on it, consistent with it, because each time you've got something different to aim for. And eventually all lead up to one big main goal. But just because I'm still moving towards the one big main goal doesn't mean that all the other ones aren't changing. Because I've got little smaller goals to sort of go towards, which will change every week, every couple of months, which will help me move towards that main goal, because they all have something to do with the main goal in general. So, for example, if my main goal is to reach 90 kilos body weight by the end of the year, which is not, no chance.
What is your goal by the end of the year?
I don't really know, actually. At the moment, I'm just sort of dawdling along.
Do you believe in... I don't want to say do you believe in setting goals, because you obviously do, that's what we've been talking about, but how much value do you think there is in setting long-term goals? Because a certain Donald Trump made a point that I actually totally agree with when it comes to setting long-term goals, is you don't know what the world is going to do in the time that it takes you to do that.
Yeah.
You don't know, for instance, if you were to snap your Achilles, well, if your goal was to be 90 kg, well, none of that's coming from your legs, because you can't use one of them.
Yeah.
So I think it's important just to sort of... I'd be interested to see how much value you place on long-term goals, because I place a lot of value on short-term goals. I think short-term goals are more valuable than long-term goals.
Yeah. So long-term goals can vary within time frames, but usually a long-term goal will last between a year. About between 6 months and a year, all the way up to about 4 years.
Yeah, but 4 years is a very long time.
Yeah, that's only if you're training for a marathon or something, or the Olympics, because the Olympics happens every 4 years. So, long-term goals can definitely be worth the time. but I feel like it's only if you put the work in. Because if you don't put the work in enough, and you don't put the work into the point where you don't... If you don't put the work in to a point where you don't get what you wanted out of, like, the main event, so, for example, the Olympics, if I was training for a 100-metre sprint 4 years straight, working on my explosive start or my capability of staying at a consistent speed for a longer period of time. If I was training for that long and then missed out on Usain Bolt's world record, which is far stretch, but this is Olympic level stuff, and missed out on Usain Bolt's world record by, say, 0.2 seconds, I would feel absolutely fucking raging. I would be so pissed off at myself because I would have done 4 years of preparation for absolutely nothing.
Is it for nothing?
Yeah, I might have still won gold medal, but it would be nice to have an extra achievement.
Yeah, but this is the point that I shall continue to bang the drum on, is I think goal setting is very useful so long as you realise that there's plenty of value outside of the goal itself. I think if you, for instance, I use my brief music career as an example. I wanted to go into music at the time. Now, that didn't transpire. It was something that ended up not being what I wanted it to be. I just didn't enjoy it. But as a result of doing that, as a result of setting the goal of getting an album out, I learnt a lot about the value of things like discipline. I learnt how to work for longer periods of time. I learnt the value of delayed gratification. I learnt the importance of taking yourself seriously enough to go, this is what I'm working towards, this is what I want to do. So, though in terms of musical skill, I won't have attained a great deal because I haven't done it for a long time, there's so much value that I got from setting the goal itself. I think setting goals and being open to just seeing what comes from pursuit. This is my point, is discipline and trying are interlinked. I think discipline is not success, it's trying. And when you try, there's something there that comes of that. There's some value, absolutely. And I think we place too much emphasis on the result itself and not enough on, if I give this as much effort as I can, what will I get from that? Because you will get a lot from it. It's like, if you are scared of approaching women and the way that you look at that is, I need to go and get this person's number, you've said it in a manner of which now it's either success or failure. You either get the number or you don't. If you reframe that as, I'm scared to do this, so let me just go over there, it's no longer a matter of success and failure in the same way, because if you go, you've won. So it doesn't, you now put the control in your palm. It's you that can determine whether you've been successful or not, because on that example, you can't dictate whether someone says yes or no. That is, with to a reasonable degree, chance. Whereas if it's down to, I either do the work or I put the effort in or don't, that's whether I've won or not, well then you've got the cards then. There's a tremendous amount of value in setting a goal and being open to whatever comes from that. Yeah, definitely.
I think what I've actually done in saying that I'd be pissed off that I didn't reach Usain Bolt's world record is sort of the way I go about my goals, just in general. So, like, getting angry that I didn't go to the gym for like a day, so I beat myself up. It's kind of like that. If I had trained for Mr. Olympia, if I'd actually trained for Mr. Olympia and I didn't get through, or didn't win, or didn't even come top 3, I would be like majorly pissed off at myself because I'd put all that hard work in the gym for absolutely nothing. I think that's just how my mind works.
But it isn't for nothing though.
Yeah.
That's my point. Is this? I think this hinges on effort. I think if you were to be in that position and you didn't quite win or achieve the desired goal, if you could come away from that knowing that you did everything you could, I don't think you'd be as upset as you think you are. I think people are upset with failure when they know they could have done more. I think if you do as best as you can, I think it's very difficult to actually be upset with that, because you know you did as best as you can. And I think a lot of the time that feeling comes from knowing that you didn't actually work as hard as you could have done, or just total irrationality. I think that I think irrationality is at the centerpiece of the conqueror's mindset. I think the person that wants to improve and achieve and grow doesn't understand that there are limitations that are out of their control. For instance, when I went on my run last Saturday, I do 5Ks on Saturday mornings. My best time's about 24 and a half minutes. Now, I wanted 24.
Good.
And the week after that, I came in and I got about 25:30 or so. Now, for context, I had a little bit of a Barney the night before. I didn't sleep very well. I didn't eat anything after about 4 o'clock the day before either. So I was not, in every sense, fit and fighting. I was not at my optimal performance.
Yeah.
When I finished that race, now that was my doing. I was in control of all of those factors. When I finished that race, I was inherently annoyed with myself, because I thought, for fuck's sake, why have you regressed? We were 24 and a half last week. Why is it 25 and a half this week? And I realised that I was actually trying to be annoyed with myself rather than looking at it and going, well, do you know what? All things considered, that's not too bad, given the fact that you're not at your fit and fighting state. That's pretty good, you know. And I think realising that there's an irrational aspect that lies within discipline is really important. It speaks to what we said earlier of we assume that if we don't go to the gym for one day, that we've lost the progress. We're all of a sudden not the disciplined person. It's just wrong. And I think discipline and warping go together hand in hand. Absolutely.
Yeah. 25 and a half minutes still is pretty good for a 5K.
But that's my point.
That's 5 minutes per kilometre. That's still pretty quick.
Exactly.
That's still very quick.
But in my head, I'd failed.
Yeah.
Well, why had I failed? I mean, not to mention the fact you didn't even want to do it today. It was raining. It was cold. You just didn't want to do it. So this is my point. This is my point when it comes to effort. Is if you try, you've won. I think reframing, and as well, you accidentally, in many respects, fall towards your goals when you do that. Because if you go, rain or shine, happy or sad, I'm going to do it, you are going to do it more and you are going to grow more than the person that goes, I'm only going to do it when I feel disciplined and ready to do it. I think reframing what it means to succeed is integral to success.
It's kind of like, and you can apply discipline to anything. As well. It's like with me, still procrastinating making those videos on protein and exercises and stuff like that. I've still procrastinating to do them because I was meant to have done them by last week. And I still haven't done them. But there's something in the back of my mind that's sort of telling me that's sort of like, are you actually like ready to make these videos yet, or is there still a bit more information you can still sort of gather to sort of be final with your decision on what you think is best? And I think that is sort of the case with it, but it is also sort of like a discipline sort of thing, because it's like, I know I've got to go through the hassle of saying the lines correctly, making sure all the words are like said properly, making sure it's clear, and then doing a voiceover on the top of it, then trying to get the lines correct in the voiceover, and then trying to match up the audio so that my lips sync up with the voiceover as well. Like, it's just, I don't know if that's putting me off or what, but something is just really stopping me.
Let me pose you a question.
Yes.
As the first and the most recent guest of this podcast,
Correct.
what differences do you notice? Do you have a microphone in front of your face?
No, that's true.
Do we have two microphones now? Is the lighting different?
It's very different.
Does the computer actually work now?
Yes, it does, with a lot of stress and a lot of pain.
Did any of that work the first time we did this?
Well, I mean...
James?
Yeah, no, okay.
My point is, if you wait until you're ready, you won't be ready. It doesn't matter if the first time you make this video, the audio doesn't sound wonderful, or you don't quite get the edit the way you want to. Just do it. It doesn't... This is why I don't like the perfectionist approach, because it stops... Perfection is the enemy of the good. And I totally agree. If you just do it, then you'll learn on the job. And I think that's a really important point, is you'll do it. Like, I've had podcasts where I've released them, the audio's been shit. Right, well, now I know not to do that. Or the camera's been wonky. Right, make sure the camera's as it should be. Yeah. Or that light hasn't been charged. Make sure that's charged then. When you do it at all, you realise where you go wrong. Like we said at the start of this video about you go into the gym and you realise that your technique's off on this one thing. So you go, right, how do I go and do that? Let me work out how to do this. If you just start, then you'll work out how to do it. Think about it. How are you going to learn how to make this video, do the subtitles, do the audio, do everything that needs to be done without doing it?
Yeah. That's where I'm going from.
But that's fine.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't matter.
And the fact that I've noticed that's where I'm going wrong.
Yeah,
it's going to
that's
give me
really
the discipline to actually just do it.
Exactly. And this is my point when it comes to growth, is when you can sort of... I don't think we cut ourselves enough slack. And I think when you learn to do that, as you've just done there, case in point, when you go, yeah, actually, could probably do that, then you open yourself up to growth. I think people assume they've got to get it right, and when they know intrinsically that they haven't got it right, they won't address it. And when they don't address it, they don't change it. It's like the person that won't ask the stupid question because they don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
Well done. You don't look stupid, but you are, because you haven't answered the question.
It's true.
Or you haven't asked the question. I think we assume that we need to be ready to do something in order to start it, and it's not the case. When you just... There's a real art to just doing it. Seeing what happens, seeing what fucks up, and just seeing what happens. There's nothing wrong with making a mistake. In fact, there's plenty right with making a mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, mistakes need to be made. Because it's important to remember, we're just people. We have to make mistakes. It's impossible to go your entire life without making a mistake. And if someone manages to go their entire life without making even the tiniest of mistakes, well, who are you?
They would be a hermit living in a cave somewhere. And herein lies the very mistake that is their lives. They never chose to live. No one...
That was very wisdomy.
What can I say? The point is, no one escapes this life without failing. And you should embrace that. I think this is one of the things that people do when they're improving, is they think that they're... It's almost like you're not... Everyone else is here. I'm wanting to do this thing that's really good, so I'm not allowed to hold myself to that standard because I'm up there. I'm doing the better thing, or so to speak. And I think I have fallen victim to thinking that I'm not allowed to hold myself to the same standards as other people because I'm doing things that other people don't do. I'm still a person.
Yeah.
I still get tired. I'm still a 20-year-old bloke that enjoys going out. You know, I still am hinged on the same human desires and frameworks as everyone else. I think when we try and improve and we try and get better at things, we don't cut ourselves any slack. And when you do that, you're not going to succeed. Because every time you make a mistake, you'll consider it a negative, and it's not. When you make a mistake, you highlight something that you can now look at. And when you look at it, you can learn about it. Now you've learnt about it. Well done. Now you've got another string to your bow, another weapon in your arsenal. Brilliant. That's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. It's important to know. It's really important to know.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I do agree with that. Definitely. I just wish people recognised what their mistakes were.
That's a massive part of it.
Because the world would be a much better place if people recognise their mistakes.
Honesty, candour and modesty are some of the best traits that you can cultivate within yourself. When you can look at yourself honestly, you are really onto a winner. You know, when you can start looking and going, God, you know what, actually, I really could be a bit nicer to that person, or I could work a bit harder on this, or, you know, case in point, going to the gym. I've done this many times. You'll go, oh, my leg's kind of hurting today. I'm going to miss it. I am a bit injured today. No, you're not. You just don't want to go. Fine. Sometimes you don't want to go, and that is fine.
Yeah.
We are perennially trapped by this idea that we constantly have to be on the ball, and sometimes, as you put it, we're humans. We make mistakes. Sometimes we can't be bothered. Now, you don't want to constantly feed that narrative of going, can't be bothered, I'm not going to do it, because that doesn't work. But last Saturday, after the run, or maybe this might have been the Saturday before. No, it was the last one. I was supposed to go to sparring afterwards. There was no reason why I shouldn't have gone. I said to myself the night before, because I was thinking, do I pack my bag? And I didn't know whether I was due to be going or not, because I didn't know if I was going out with Richard afterwards. Yeah. I knew by the evening that wasn't happening. And I thought, God, I didn't really think I was going to be going. So I kind of don't want to go, but I probably should go. And I said to myself, I sat in my room and I said, what's going on here? I said, I don't want to do it. Why don't you want to do it? Because I just don't. Fine. Go next time. Yeah. And I think you can do that. You don't have to always be perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't. Just because you haven't gone to do something, no matter what it is, one time, which is like once in a blue moon, doesn't mean you're not disciplined. It doesn't mean you're not consistent.
Exactly. That's my point.
It just means that you're just having a cool down.
Heaven forbid you act the way that a human acts. This is my point. Something that I struggle with on my own behalf is I assume that I'm not allowed to be happy until I have done what needs to be done. And if anyone lives their life like that, this is where there's a distinguishing to be made between being happy and being successful, because you can definitely have both, and being successful will open you up to a level of happiness because you'll feel fulfilled. But if you prioritise success entirely and you don't pay any attention to being happy, that success is not worth it. I have noticed something that Richard and I were speaking about. Some of the most productive times of my life have been sad ones. And it's like, well done, you've done a lot of work today, but how do you feel? Shit. Oh well done. I'm sure you're really glad that you did that then. Wouldn't you have rather gone out today? Yeah, I would have done. Right. I think the discipline world, the sort of the people, the I'm not going to name drop David Goggins because I love him. He's one of my favourite people on the planet. But that sort of, in name dropping him there, those sort of figures have, and I don't think they've done this, I think it's the way people have taken it, have made you think that you've constantly got to be disciplined, you've constantly got to be on the ball, and you can't do anything else. This is your life. You're always going to be disciplined. Fuck off. Fuck off. You can do things because you want to. Do you want to go to the beach today? All right, go on then. Go. You want to live your life 90% the way you should.
Yeah.
And allow yourself to do some other stuff.
Yeah, because you can overwork. We all know about burnout.
Yeah.
We all know what happens when you overwork yourself too much, or you work for too long, for too many days in a row, or you do too many things. It can lead to poor health effects, really badly. I personally believe that it can lead to higher blood pressure, and if with higher blood pressure, it can lead to hypertension, which is high blood pressure, which can then lead to heart effects. Heart conditions, which can then lead to all sorts, like a higher chance of cardiac arrest, higher chance of heart attack, just heart disease. It can lead to some really bad health effects if you don't just sit back and just chill.
I think you're missing one of the most important ones here.
Mental health.
Yeah.
Yeah, and mental health as well, because if you do too much, and then you sit down and consistently worry about not completing all your tasks during your days, you're going to feel shit about yourself.
You can't always work. There comes a point when, as you say, you're going to be ill, or you're going to be there will be a reason why you can't work 24 hours a day. So you're just only going to be happy for the time when you're working.
Yeah.
Good luck. It's not going to work.
Yeah, and it's the exact same with the gym as well. You can overwork yourself in the gym. There's something called chronic fatigue syndrome, which comes from technically being too fit. Yeah. You get it from being too fit and healthy. You will feel awful. You'll feel tired all the time. You'll feel like your muscles won't be able to perform as good as what they used to be able to. And that is all because you overworked yourself in the gym. You overworked your muscles. You overworked your cardiovascular system. Like, you can seriously get fucked up.
The reason I wanted to make the point is because I strongly believe that this in itself is a discipline. I think it is a level of discipline to be able to understand that your value as a person is not directly hinged on the amount of work that you do.
Yeah.
I think when you learn, it's a point that I found quite interesting as I've plunged back into social media in order to be able to put the podcast out, is I think if you completely avoid something, you haven't actually shown yourself that you can control yourself with that. You're just avoiding it. Now, for plenty of things, that's a good thing to do. And if you don't tempt fate, fate will not come for you. But my point is here, if you just totally block that part of your life out and say, right, I'm not going to do it at all, you haven't actually proved to yourself that you can manage that. You haven't proved to yourself that you can be on social media and use it for the good stuff and just otherwise leave it. You haven't showed yourself that you're actually disciplined to do that because you're avoiding it. And it's the same thing when it comes to rest. If you haven't shown yourself that you can actually rest, you're not disciplined on that. That's something you're not disciplined on. And this calls to what you said. Discipline can be used across the board. Discipline is across the board. And I think when you realise in the funniest of ways that one of the hardest disciplines to master is a lack of discipline, you're really on to something when you do that, because I think that's where you learn to strike the balance. And in striking the balance, you get both. You get happiness and you get success. There's no point in being successful without being happy. And I can't stress that enough. And I think discipline is the centerpiece of this. It's hard to live a worthy life without dedicating yourself to something, because it's just the way people are. We need to strive for something. If you don't achieve and press and conquer, you probably won't feel as good as the person that does. Yeah. I would put money on the fact you won't feel as good as the person that does. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, it's it is definitely discipline is definitely the centerpiece to a lot of things, 100%. And I can use this in the gym for myself, because I still go to my place of work even on my annual leave. Yeah. When I'm meant to not even be there, I still go there. Yeah. And I have people that I work with come up to me and say, James, you pretty much live here. Like, why are you still here? And I'm just like, oh, well, I'm only coming here just for my own benefit.
Biceps though.
Yeah, I'm just got back day today. That's all. Like, nothing too big. No, but yeah, like literally, I have people come up to me saying, "Oh, James, you pretty much live here. Like, why are you here? You're meant to be off." And I'm just like, I just got to come here to go to the gym. You know, like I do this for myself. I'm not working, so I'm not coming. So I don't feel like I'm coming here to work. I feel like I'm coming here just as a normal member, just to use the facilities.
I'm enjoying my time here.
Yeah.
I think that's an important point on discipline, is once you do it for long enough, it doesn't actually feel that hard.
No, you just enjoy it.
It's what you do. I've noticed that it's... The cold water doesn't get warmer, your skin gets stronger or thicker. You're no longer... Or the weight doesn't get lighter, you get stronger.
You get stronger, yeah.
And that is the way. When you do it for what is in actual fact not that long before you really start, it's like a point that I think you would do well to consider is you're constantly looking forward at that achieving that better version of your body. Yeah. Now that's wonderful, and you will do well for that, and you will achieve that as a result of that mindset and the work ethic. But I'd be interested to see what the 17-year-old version of you would think if you said, do you want this body? I'd be interested to see what he would say. Because I would wage that he'd say, fuck yeah, that's wonderful. Great.
Yes. 100%, because I filled out some of the shirts that he wanted to fill out. But at the same time, no, because...
James, come on.
No. But I'm saying because my dream body as well is to be absolutely shredded.
Yeah, but it might be. But the point is, you already are. And I know that you aren't in the way that you want to be. But if you at 17, the scrawny, skinny, totally absent of muscle version of you, had the chance to go... How does this work for you? Would you rather this? There is no way that you wouldn't go, fuck yeah. It's the imposter syndrome. It's that, do you know that our psyche lacks 2 years behind? So the way this is how imposter syndrome works, is, do you know what imposter syndrome is?
No, I've never heard of it.
So imposter syndrome is basically, a lot of people get this. You'll be improving, you'll be working towards something, or you'll achieve something. People get this a lot when they're celebrities. And you don't feel like you are worth being there. You feel like an imposter. You feel like, I'm not supposed to be here. This is not what I'm supposed to do. Like, for instance, I had a time at Ethan's once where I was just being nice. Like, I'd been quite nice to Dylan and then Ethan consecutively, and I sort of felt, I was like, who are you to... What, you being patronising now or something? Like, what are you doing here? This isn't what you do. And I thought it was... And it was such a salient example of it, because I thought, I haven't done, like... What do you mean? I'm just being a nice person. I've just said something nice. Why? And imposter syndrome basically will just... It's the voice in your ear that says, this isn't you. This isn't what you should be doing. What are you doing here? And imposter syndrome is a fucking bastard on points like this, where it makes you think that the image that you are currently, that's not the way that you see yourself. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I think when you realise, just on that point of sort of how would your 17-year-old version of yourself look at your 20-year-old version of yourself, it's lagging behind. So if the 17-year-old version of you was to look at you now, you go, yeah, minted. That works well for me. But the version of you now doesn't do that, because you're still essentially on that point lagging behind mentally.
Yeah.
And it's just the way we are. It's nothing personal to you. It is the way that the mind works.
Yeah. Yeah. I do get that sometimes. Now that I'm moving into the personal training team from being a lifeguard, it's sort of like, whoa, this is weird, because I went into David Lloyd earlier today before coming here, just to sit down and have a coffee with Abby and Alex and Summer, and it eventually turned into just me sat down with half of the PT team, and I just felt so weird just to be sat down with people that I'm now going to be working with every day consistently, that is now the new team that I'm working with, and it just sort of felt a bit strange.
Yeah.
Because I always viewed them as like the big dogs, like the guys that everyone would like talk to and everything like that. And I was just sat at the table and I was like, I'm here. Why? Like, what am I doing here? I don't feel right, because everyone has their own clients, like, and all of that stuff. I obviously don't have any yet because I'm still waiting for my certificate to come through, but it just felt wrong.
You didn't feel like you belonged.
Yeah.
But you do.
It just felt strange, yeah.
That's the point. How did it feel, though, in terms of the positive side of it?
Oh, it felt great.
Yeah?
Oh, I loved it. Because obviously ever since working at David Lloyd, I've always wanted to be part of that PT team because I know how prestigious it can be. Especially knowing that one of our personal trainers back in 2023, I think it was, he was the top personal trainer out of all of the David Lloyds in the country. In the company. Top personal trainer, that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, and it drove me more because I was like, I want to be like this guy, if not better, because I want to be up there. I want to make sure that I'm known, and I want to make sure that people know who I am for when I start moving on in the future to a different gym or my own stuff, which is what I want to do. I just need to make sure I have the discipline to do it.
That elusive word. That special word today.
Discipline. Yeah, I've just got to make sure I've got the discipline and abilities to actually get that done.
Do you know what the prefrontal cortex is?
Sounds like a part of the brain.
Yeah. So I'm going to spout some Andrew Huberman facts here.
Okay.
The prefrontal cortex is essentially a part of the brain that is directly correlated on discipline or correlative to discipline. And it grows as you do things that you don't want to do. So, name dropping the man himself, David Goggins, he's got like the biggest one in the world because he's just a fucking chap.
Yeah, he's got like a lump coming up.
Yeah. That bald head, there's hair underneath that. It's just his amygdala coming through. His prefrontal cortex coming through. And it was really interesting, actually, that I saw Andrew Huberman was saying, if you do something that's hard, but you like to do it, that doesn't fall under the sort of category of discipline in the same way in the brain, because you like to do it. So, for instance, I quite like cold showers now because they make me feel good. So every time I do one, I assume there'll be a level of growth because there's part of me before I'm like, fuck, I don't want to do it. But I suppose it depends through the year, actually. In the winter, that's definitely the case, but in the summer, not so much. It was interesting to find out that there is a difference in the brain between discipline of, I really, really don't want to do that, and discipline of, I don't want to do that, it's hard, but I do like doing it. I'm not at all denigrating sort of the discipline that comes in going to the gym or anything, because it absolutely is discipline.
Yeah.
But it's just interesting that there's a difference in the brain between, for instance, my trembling fear of approaching women and my fear of, or my discomfort of going to a fight gym now. Or the difference even in that of between what it was and what it is.
Yeah.
Because the brain is computing it in a different way. Just an interesting point.
Yeah. That is definitely interesting about the brain and everything. Because I never knew that. I never knew that the brain was, or had something specifically, well, not like specifically, but had something to do with, or there was a part of the brain that had something specifically to do with how much discipline you have.
Well, I mean, my explanation of it is in every sense crude. because I'm not a neuroscientist.
Yeah, that's true. They'll probably be.
I'm a 20-year-old that watches one. So I've sort of dumbed that down to the nth degree.
Yeah.
But yeah, there is a part of the brain that is essentially dedicated to that.
That is really interesting. Brain is just a fascinating thing.
The brain is a fascinating thing, but it's something that is far too fascinating for you or I to encompass. We can watch someone else talk about it and go, wow.
Ah, yes, that's what that does.
Oh yes. And that's the extent of it.
Yeah, it's true. I did briefly learn about some parts of the brain in my PT course.
Go on.
Well, I don't fucking remember it.
Oh, wow. I see you've retained that information well.
Oh, yeah. Which just shows that the amount of information that you learn from courses that you're never going to use. I didn't get questioned on it once during my exams.
Yeah, well, now we just keep in mind that all of that work that you did at school was worth it.
Yeah.
You know, all those things that you remember from doing it were...
Yeah.
You need those.
Yeah, Pythagoras theorem. I'm using it right now to work out the area of this room.
I used it to make sure that these microphones were set up properly. And I need to use some angling to make sure that this fucking desk is as it should be. But I think the point that has been made by me elevating the desk at the recording is that we have touched the points that need to be made when it comes to the good side of discipline, when it comes to the bad side of discipline, how to use your positive and your negative energies and just generally encompass discipline as a part of your life and do so in a way that is productive.
Yeah, 100%.
On that point, as is customary for these videos, I shall end by saying something that I think you would do well to hear. Okay. I think as someone who is constantly striving in terms of improvement and trying to get better in yourself, I think you forget to give yourself the appropriate praise. I think you should take some time to really consider the fact that, as I said, the 17-year-old version of you would be very, very proud of the person that you are. And I think in improvement and looking forward, we forget to realise that we've actually done a lot for ourselves, and you've done a lot for yourself. You have improved a tremendous amount, and as someone who has known you for a very long time now, you, in terms of your desire to improve, your mental aspects and your general way of being, have shot through the roof a tremendous amount, and you should be proud of yourself for that. And on that point, I think something that you really should pay attention to, and you might not have realised that you're doing this, is you are asking a lot more questions now. You're asking a lot of questions of yourself and of other people, and you're exploring more avenues of discipline. And within that, you shall continue to become someone who, in line with what it is that you want to do for your career, will inspire many people.
Thank you, mate. And
with that being said,
thank you.
You're welcome.
It's been by far the best one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
In my opinion.
It's been wonderful.